Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire Magazine, the premier inspirational digital magazine for women since 2006. I am still pinching myself that I am blessed to be able to bring you all the resources, the experts, the content to inspire you to live your best life. And if you haven't claimed that free subscription yet, and yes, it's still free 15 years later, go to subscribe to aspire.com. Well, I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite topics today, maybe because it's something I've struggled with myself. So I'm eager for today's conversation. So I don't know about you, but I struggle with self-care, and I'll talk about that more during the show. And I'm curious for you if you struggle with it, and also do the teens and young adults in your life, are you noticing maybe they lack healthy self-care rituals? Well, today we'll be diving into why self-care is important now more than ever, especially for young people. Author Christy Hugstad offers a roadmap toward wellness for those who are struggling emotionally or who just want to be better. Today she'll join me to discuss 5 different types of self-care: physical, emotional, social, mental, and financial. And we'll share and discuss simple yet powerful day-to-day practices that will support you on your journey. Christy is the author of Beneath the Surface, a teen's guide to reaching out when you or your friend is in crisis. Ever since her husband completed suicide in 2012, after years of struggling with clinical depression by running in front of a train, she has dedicated her life to helping to abolish the stigma of mental illness and suicide. A certified grief recovery specialist and a grief and loss facilitator for recovering addicts at South Coast Behavioral Health, Christy frequently speaks at high schools, and she's also the host of the popular The Grief Girl podcast. Welcome, Christy. I'm so glad you're with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, as we were talking about off here, this is such an important topic, and it always has been an important topic, but now more than ever. Now more than ever, Christy, and I'm sure you're noticing it.
Well, absolutely. In these trying times of the pandemic, what's happening is our youth are isolated. Everybody isn't back in school. They don't have that connection with their peers. So that's why my book about self-care is so important during this pandemic, because the isolation, our teens and young people are not wired to be isolated from their peers. That's a really important part of being a youth today.
Yeah, and it's so important because your new book, Be You, Only Better, right? Why I was so excited to receive it is it focuses on the teens and young adults, and it gives them simple yet powerful self-care practices. Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't have someone to teach me that growing up, right? So sometimes we don't have a model in our life like I didn't.
None of us had self-care information available when we were growing up. It's just, hey, our parents and teachers would say, that's a part of life. Just deal with it. So that's what inspired me to write the book, is because our youth now more than ever, they're struggling and they need these tools. And then once I got in, it was about halfway through the book, I thought, you know what? When my friends and family started reading it, they said, this applies to everybody. So it's real life self-care for young adults and everyone else.
Well, I'll tell you, it was I'm enjoying the book. It was resonating with me because, um, as I share, I have a Inspired Living University, and as I shared with the students there, it just came up a couple. I think the theme was self care in January, and I'm really transparent, and I say, listen, guys, I am very strong on my spiritual and emotional self care. I dive deep. I've been doing that work for 20 years to heal a lot of stuff. My struggle, the physical self care, right? It's like I have to always constantly be going, did you have your green drink? Did you have your vitamins? Did you move your body today? That's the one I struggle with. So it opened up conversation, Christy, and some people are like, what do you mean emotional self care? What do you mean this self care? And I'm like, we need Christy on the line.
Well,
Because they think it's one thing. Well, I took a bubble bath or I got a massage 6 months ago. I'm like, it's more than that.
I think people associate self-care with some kind of a spa treatment. And
I'm
that's,
going to tell you, I'm noticing in conversations with women, that's what they do believe.
yes, I got my nails done today, and that was my self-care uh, tool for the week. And that's not what it's about at all. And the interesting thing is there is so much information out there about self-care, but as an educator myself, where they stop short, it's great to say, you know what, you really need to take care of your body physically or emotionally or mentally, but how how do I do that? We all know it's something we should do, but I needed to take it a step further in my book and actually say, here's how to get started. Do this. Here's an action plan for you. And here's a worksheet to track your progress. Because that's where I think we're falling short. It's one thing to say, you really need to exercise, but how do I get started? So that's, I think, what makes my book a little bit different than just telling people what to do.
Yeah, it's the reasons. And I want to cover, so let's start at the beginning of the 5 different types of self-care that you discuss in the book and that you have found in your work with clients and as a teacher really help us live a whole healthy life.
Well, and like you said, I think we may think we're taking really good care of ourselves, but most of us can find one of these 5 areas where we fall short. I'm the opposite. I have a Pilates studio, so I take care of myself physically. I've always been in the fitness industry, but yet I will fall short socially or financially. So that's why I think to be a really healthy, well-rounded person, you have to really self-examine in all 5 of these areas and figure out where you need to put in more effort.
And would you like to share the 5?
Absolutely. The first one, as you pointed out, is physical. And that's not just exercising, that also includes good nutrition, cutting out sugar, eating more fruits and vegetables, hydrating. So all that falls under the physical component. Next is emotional. And that's not about controlling your emotions. It's just becoming more in sync with your emotions and then allowing yourself to feel them. So I think it may be the exact opposite of what people think. It's not about controlling them, it's about allowing them and feeling them.
It was that way for me. I would say my journey was about to stop stuffing them and learn to experience them.
Yes, and I think a lot of us have that whole concept backwards. And then next is mental self-care, and that's about keeping your mind sharp and exercising in your brain and doing exercises to help your brain grow and develop. So activities that stimulate your mind and your intellect, like reading, um, solving puzzles, playing chess, writing, studying, taking up a new language. So those are all things that keep your mind constantly learning and growing. And next is the financial self care. And I'm not just saying trying to make as much money as you can, but when you have financial worries, they're a huge cause of stress and anxiety, and that affects your overall well being. So, really, what I'm saying is make a budget. Think about what you are spending your money on. and make your finances a priority so that you can reduce the stress and anxiety and, just up your happy hormones and just be self-confident and relax in the knowledge that you have your finances under control.
And then what do we have? And what about the social?
And social, and especially for young adults, the social aspect is so important because when you engage and you're interacting with other people, whether it's your peers, your family, your siblings, your parents, it makes you feel good about yourself. We need social interaction as human beings. And that's why during a pandemic, it's so important for our young people to stay connected with their family and friends. And I know it's hard because a lot of the activities, that they're used to hanging out with their buddies aren't happening anymore. So we've got to encourage our young people to go out of their way to maintain those social connections.
It's so important. And, as you were speaking about the young people, I'm thinking, it's the same needs for the elderly, right? They're feeling so socially isolated right now. And so, like you said, this book is really for everyone.
Well, yeah, and especially older people that maybe aren't on Zoom or don't have the tech skills, to Skype or Zoom or whatever. It's tough because they have very, very little contact with other human beings, and that's not healthy.
Yeah. And I know, even just talking to my mom, she's 84. She's a hot ticket. I mean, she jumped out of a plane for her 80th birthday, so she's a hot ticket. But she said, Lynn, I'm used to going to my yoga class and all this. And she's the one that picks up her girlfriends and goes to lunch. And it just ended a year ago. A year ago this week, right? So she's had to negotiate her emotions to get through it. So one of the things, as you just shared, is I think I shared it before we came on the air. I have a 21-year-old grandson, and I also have a 9-year-old granddaughter. But even the 21-year-old, he is working with the public, but still, like, a lot of his friends are like, no, we can't get together because I'm still living with my family and they don't want us to. So everything is virtual, but I think you miss nuances, right? Like there's a difference between live and virtual. Have you noticed that too?
Oh, it's night and day, and it's not. And what I'm finding that's happening now is that, when people actually do get together, and there's social distancing, it's such a different experience because we're so appreciative to be even to be able to do those small things that we used to take for granted. So I am hoping that this whole having everything virtual will teach us a lesson and make us grateful and appreciate one another because it's been taken from us. And stepping out of isolation and kind of slowly, maneuvering back in society is something that we took for granted before.
Oh yeah, we did. I know for me, I'm a natural born hermit. I mean, I have a large global audience. I'm always on group calls. And so I have a virtual business. I used to produce live women's events. Well, I shouldn't say used to because we're coming back in 2022. But I noticed my personality loves it. My family calls me the hermit. But I noticed my friends are really struggling, the extroverts, right? The ones who need that connection. And they're just not getting fed with the digital.
Well, I also think the introverts are maybe having a rougher time because they're not as apt to reach out to people virtually. And, we're all human. We all need human connection, some more than others. But it's those people that are really introverted that don't make that effort that can fall into a depression. And that can be very concerning too.
Well, we're going to take a break, Christy. When we come back, I want to dive in even deeper with the wisdom that you shared in the book. We're going to give our listeners some great resources and guidance. And we'll be right back. I invite you to visit Christy's website at thegriefgirl.com. We'll be right back.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at Om Times Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. Om Times Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Christy Hugstead, author of Be You, Only Better. And we're talking about an important topic today, self-care. And not the self-care that you and your girlfriends might talk about, like I had my nails done, I had a bath. This is so much deeper, and it's so needed right now. So, Christy, one of the self-care practices that you offer in the book happens to be one of my favorites, and it's journaling. And you mentioned that it's usually one of the first self-care practices you offer. Why? Like, why do you find it so important?
Well, I think it's really important to first kind of figure out what's going on deep within you. And when you engage in the practice of writing things down, you're engaging in self-reflection. And that is really necessary. That's a first step in kind of figuring out who you are as a person. And when you start to write down everything, what you're anxious about, if you're depressed, what's happened in your day that's good. When you have those words out in front of you, it helps you make sense of what is going on, what's causing that anxiety. And then you can come up with an action plan. But sometimes if you just keep it in your head, it keeps looping around and around, and you never stop and take a breath and think, okay, let's come up with an action plan now to lower my anxiety so that I don't feel depressed. So it's such an important self-care tool for everybody. That's how I started. My journaling became books, but I started just writing out my story because I didn't have a handle on what had happened. And it helped me to make sense of why I was feeling the way that I did.
For me, it's like a powerful place where I can, I say, talk to my soul, right? Talk to my essence and get out of my head. Have you ever had anyone experience it from that energy? It's almost like you can quiet the chatter of your mind when you're journaling.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. It is about getting out of your own way and making sense of what's going on in your head instead of staying in that place and not moving forward.
And because I know you do speak, you speak at high schools and everything. Do you notice that the younger people are picking up journaling? Because it's almost like everything's so digital, right?
Yes.
I'm curious, do they do it?
No.
I'm like, I know, because I'm thinking they live on the phone. They don't even know what it's like to pick up a paper and pen. There's a certain generation, like my grandson that's 21, that thing is freaking attached to them.
Absolutely. But what I do is I actually kind of give them a homework assignment, and the teachers follow up with that. I don't want to take the time, in that hour that I'm there. But if the only way a young adult or teenager is going to do it is on their phone or on their laptop, that's fine. But I really encourage them to just take out a notebook and just start writing, kind of get away from technology for a second and just write and keep writing how you're feeling. But they need to really have a drill to do that. They need an assignment because it's so foreign to them. I took notes in high school manually with a pen, and that's not what's going on with our teens anymore. So I think it's kind of something we have to back up and teach them to do.
Oh yeah. My granddaughter's, as I shared, she's 9, and I think I bought her first, I think they call it a diary at the time, when she was 6. And I said, this is your sacred place when something's bothering you. Do you know she still uses it? Well, and I keep I want her to have that. And then I bought her one of those books. I can't remember the name, but it's kind of like this book about you. In fact, I think I had it when I was a child and gave it to my daughter. Remember the Dr. Zeus, and you filled it in all about you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it was bright yellow. So I'm encouraging all that because it's played such an important healing role in my life, but I didn't find it until I didn't connect with it till I was in my 30s. So that was 30 years ago. I want her to have that place now, that's your sacred place to go.
Well, but absolutely. And you know what? They need direction. It's not something you can just tell someone to do. Start a journal. Give them the information on how to get started. Like, okay, what journal at the same time every day? What works best for you? The morning, at night, before you go to bed, when you get home from school or work, and give them some direction, but make it fun and let them know, don't overthink it. Just write whatever comes into your head and don't edit. So they need direction, and they need some guidelines because it's not something that's taught in school. So I think just giving them some clues on how to go about it and then making it okay. You can scribble on the back of a piece of scratch paper or a napkin. That's fine. Just don't overthink it and be genuine. Write down whatever is coming into your head at that moment.
I so agree. And what you just said made me remember what I did in that first journal because she was so young. I printed out in the first 10 pages. Because I personally like journal prompts, right? To get me to dive deeper. So I put something like, what are 2 things that made you happy today? What are you grateful for? Like, to get her on the paper.
Yes.
I don't have to do that anymore because she just writes her own, what she wants to write. And she knows that's her sacred space. But I found for me, and I actually teach the students of Inspired Living University, if you're stuck journaling, because for years, and I'm curious, I'm going to ask you this question. So we were diving deep with the students, I think it was before the holidays, and journaling came up. So I think there was 20 women on the call. So some, of course, they're like, oh my God, I love journaling. It's the essence. It's everything. Like, it was their go-to tool, Christy.
Right.
And then you had a segment who said, oh my God, I collect journals. That was me actually too. I collect journals, I collect pens, but I can't write. I feel like if I put my truth on this, somebody might feel it. And it's some kind of really strong emotional block of a fear to put it on paper for fear of it being found or seen, like their deepest truths. And I'm talking about, this is a heavy wound. Have you seen this?
Absolutely. What it does when you write it down and you see it on paper, it makes it real. And not everybody is at that point where they want it to be their reality. So they're a little bit hesitant to do that because they're not ready to face it yet. So, that's something they need to talk about and understand that it's okay. Journaling should be a safe place because it's just for you, right? So make sure if you're afraid of somebody reading it, make sure that you have it in a safe place. And you know what? If it's that big of an issue, you can crumple it up and toss it. So if you have fears, you need to face them head on and figure out why it is that scares you. And a lot of times I find that they just don't want it to be reality. And if they write it down, it's too real.
Oh, I agree. And one of the other reasons came up because I got them to dive deep to see what the reason was. And one of them said that one woman said she knows there's wounds there that she's done a really good job at stuffing for 30 years. And she's afraid if she opens the door to the feelings, she's going to be overwhelmed.
And you know what? She probably will be overwhelmed, and that's okay. You don't have to dissect your past and figure everything out in one sitting. But one really positive benefit that I found when I started writing about my husband's history with anxiety and depression, and I started to write my story, what was really healing for me is 6 or 8 months later, when I took my journal and I looked back, I realized how far I had come in my grief journey. And it was a real eye-opener because when you're in it, you don't realize that you are moving forward because the process is so slow. So it was very, very good for me to read my journal from the beginning and think, you know what? Wow, I'm really glad I am no longer in that same place.
Oh, so true. I can relate to that story because I feel the same way when I look back in mine. Before we go to our next break, one of the things that you talk about in the book is sleep and why it's so important. And I'll have to tell you, it's really important to me because that's just how my body's wired. I have to get sleep. Now, my audience knows I get up between 3 and 4 a.m. every day. That's my body clock, my natural body clock. But I'm in bed by 9. But I also know if my sleep cycle gets off, it affects every other area. So why do you feel it's such an important aspect of self-care?
Well, it's probably one of the most important things because it affects all the different areas. When you think about it, if you have a really bad night's sleep, the next day you're not productive, you make mistakes, you lose your keys, you can't focus at school or work. So it affects your performance in all the different areas of your life. So I think that that's probably the most important self-care tool that there is because it's a domino effect and we've all experienced that. That's when you're more likely to get into a car accident because you're not focused. So it's probably number one in my book.
And what advice, before we go to break, do you have to offer to those who have a hard time sleeping?
There's lots of different things that need addressing. First of all, you need to unplug. And, I'm guilty of that too. You have your phone with you, probably in bed, checking social media. And a couple hours before you need to be asleep, put the phone down and unplug. Stop the energy drinks, the Cokes, the sodas with caffeine. Try to cut it out completely, but at least don't have caffeine past, say, 2 p.m. So caffeine is another culprit. The exercise. Are you moving your body during the day and making yourself physically tired? And for a lot of people, it's a no. You're sitting, you're in classes, you're at work, and when you get home, you're exhausted. So you have to realize that exercise and moving your body actually gives you energy and will help you sleep better at night. So there's a lot of things that need to be considered when making a proper sleep routine for you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to dive into those who are having trouble getting motivated to exercise. So I will be back in a moment. Be sure to catch us when we come back.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Do you feel overwhelmed and unsure about what steps to take to find peace, joy, and purpose in your life? Chris Groth is a spiritual mentor, energy healer, and best-selling author of the novel Soliloquy, a novel of healing, soul connection, and passion, and co-author of several best-selling books. Chris is passionate about helping women connect more deeply to their own truth, to promote healing, and restore balance to the body, heart, mind, and soul, so they can live a soul-connected life. Chris serves clients around the world through spiritual mentoring sessions, energy healings, and powerful custom-guided sound healing meditations that bring in the energy of crystal singing bowls. If you're ready to heal your heart, nurture your soul, and illuminate your path, schedule a complimentary virtual session with Chris today at chrisgroth.com. That's Chris with a K and GROTH.com.
Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. This is Linda Joy, and I'm with Christy Hugstad today, author of Be You, Only Better, her new book, which focuses on self-care for teens and young adults and everyone in between. So, Christy, there's so many, and I do this is my personal struggle, is movement, not finding time, because that's an excuse, creating time and prioritizing exercise and even movement of any kind. So come on, girl, give me some advice, because that has, my honey will say, babe, so what guidance do you have?
The first thing I would tell you is to find some form of movement that you really enjoy. If I told you that you need to go out and go for a 40-minute run and you hate running, it's never going to happen. So you need to be realistic. Do you like to dance? Do you like to go for hikes? Do you like to be outside in nature? Do you like to cycle? Do videos, online, hip hop, whatever it is that you like? Be realistic. And if you don't like it, you're not going to do it. So that's number one, is find an activity that you enjoy. And I also think it's important to understand, to work out for your body type, because this is something, as a fitness professional, nobody teaches you this. I was a long, lanky, skinny kid, and I wanted to be a gymnast when I was in junior high. And I practiced trying to do cartwheels. I could barely do a cartwheel, much less a flip or, any kind of gymnastics move, because I didn't have the body type for that. So I didn't understand at that age why I couldn't do gymnastics. So I think, there's 3 different body types, and I was an ectomorph, kind of a long, lean, long limbs. I'm not going to be a ballet dancer or a gymnast. And so a mesomorph would be more of a gymnast body type that's a little bit more compact and muscular. And then an endomorph is somebody who's a little more curvy, higher body fat, and maybe not as athletic as a mesomorph. So now, years later, I understand my body type and what type of activities I will excel at. So now I'm more of a distance runner, right? So for you, if you're a mesomorph and you like to dance, then find some form of dance that you really enjoy. So I think it's so important for people to have a realistic goal in mind based on their genetics.
I love that. So I was listening to what you said, and one of the things I do enjoy doing, and we did it all winter. I'm here in New England. We stopped for 6 weeks and just started. I live in the middle of the woods on a gorgeous, large spring-fed pond on a private road, so it's heaven. And we do sunrise morning walks around the pond. So that feeds my soul. I just don't think it's active enough, because we go together probably. And every day is different, but average 30 up to 45. But it's not fast paced, and I know I need more than that, either weights or something. So I'm going to commit right here live that I'm going to go check out this video that's been drawing me. It's called Kinergy, KIN, RGY.com when I went to Tony Robbins last summer. It's Juliette Hough, who you all may know from Dancing with the Stars. He had her on. It's the first time in my life, Christy, that I was like, oh, I can move like that. I could not believe it. And I did it. I did it for 2 months, committed and loved it. And then my pattern came back as I'm not going to move. So this conversation, I am committing to my audience that I am going to go get my Kinergy videos and sign back up again.
But see, you have figured out what you enjoy and what works for you. If I told you, to buy a bike and cycle for an hour every day, it's not going to happen. I'm not one to do exercise videos. It works for you. So I would suggest that you start that today, and you're going to see how much better you feel, because when you move, and you're enjoying it, you're listening to the music, and you're really kind of having fun, and you're doing something positive, the endorphins, that neurochemical hormone in your brain, the endorphins increase, and you actually feel like you are getting a natural high. And that is what you want to become addictive. I want to feel that endorphin rush again. I need to do that video again tomorrow, because it changed my mood. So, there's something chemically going on in your brain when you move, and it's called an exercise addiction, but it's a positive one.
I love that, because that was an addiction that I need, that kind of.
Exactly.
And it's like you said, discovering what aligns with me and not worrying about what others' guidance is, because that's what would happen. You join all these things and it's like everyone else is, but it's like it's not you.
No, you don't like it, right? So don't pretend, and find something that you're passionate about. There are people that are social exercisers. They want to join a friend and go for a nice hike and then have coffee, right? That's not me. I like to run. I like to be alone and go when when I feel like it. So for those that are more into making it a social activity, then find a friend or a family member, and then you're committing to that date, and that will get you out. And then you're also fulfilling that need for socialization.
Oh, and it's the part I love is for myself is realizing that I didn't have to keep judging myself.
No, you
like I had a friend that she went to I'm going and dating myself, but like 20, 30 years ago, my God, that woman, she was in every aerobics class. I'm like, oh my God, just looking at an aerobics class would stress me out. They would be going left, I would be going right. And I finally said, that's not who I am. It's not me.
Right. But for some reason, I think when we're younger, we kind of are subjected to peer pressure. And since your friend might be doing a good job and you're hating it because it's not your thing, it's okay to say, no, I don't want to do that. That does not work for me. So, experiment with lots of different things and then ultimately find what you love so that you'll continue to do it, maybe 5 times a week.
Exactly. So my commitment to my audience is I will continue my morning walk and I will turn on Kenergy, because when I do, I feel aligned. I feel good. Plus, I want to be here for my grandchildren. So we are going to take, we have a moment before our break. So let's talk about nature, because I know what it does for me. It starts my day in this beautiful, sacred, grounded energy. So have you found that being in nature feeds our self-care?
Well, it actually does. It does have a positive impact on your brain. When you get outside in nature, around the green trees or a body of water, it does actually change your brain chemistry. And you actually feel lighter, you're in a better mood. So it does, you don't have to, I live by the ocean. I'm in Southern California, and I like to go down to the beach and listen to the crashing waves. And that I'm addicted to going down there because it does change my brain chemistry. And when I get back, I feel relaxed. My anxiety's gone, and I have a certain spiritual sense of calmness. But you don't have to live by the ocean. You can go outside and have any kind of nature. It can be a tree, it can be the birds, but just getting that vitamin D in the sunshine and getting outdoors. I hate to say it, but it's something we actually have to make a conscious effort to do, because we're inside on the computers, kids are in school on their computers, and then we're tired at the end of the day. So even if it's 10 minutes, it really does lift your mood.
I know it does for me. And like you, I've always been an ocean gal, and it soothes my soul also. I'm blessed that we live for the last 20 years on this private spring-fed water. I go sit on my beach. We have a private beach, and I can just spend 15 minutes there, and it just grounds me, brings me back into my body. So nature's an important part of my self-care.
And it should be for everybody. And like I said, not everybody, has a beach or even a lake or a creek, but it whatever it is, it could be the mountains, just in your own backyard. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to take a field trip somewhere else. Find the beauty in the nature, in the surroundings of where you live.
Yeah, sometimes it's just sitting in a chair outside. If I have, a little while between calls, closing my eyes and just facing the sun, and just, even in the middle of winter, I do this. And I love to feel the warmth on my face.
Yes, the fresh air, the breeze, just kind of listening to the sounds of nature from the leaves or animals or birds that you're hearing. What are you smelling? What sensations are you feeling? So you kind of get in touch with your senses when you are in nature, and that's so important.
Thank you for that tip. And we're going to take a final break, and when we come back, I want to talk about the financial aspect, because I love the phrase that you said, budgeting is self-care. And I'm like, let's dive into this, because I used to be, in my 20s especially, the queen of self-sabotage and a financial misfit. So it's nice to have come full circle and change that. But I wish young people had this knowledge that you've been sharing today a long time ago. So we'll be back in a moment. I'm with author Christy Hugstad, author of Be You, Only Better. Be sure to visit her website at thegriefgirl.com. We'll be right back.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
It's time to amplify your intuitive superpowers and allow your soul to lead the way. When you hear, trust, and follow your inner wisdom, you'll discover your soul's path. A path that leads to the joyful, authentic, and abundant life you desire and deserve. Master intuitive teacher, coach, and healer, Carolyn McGee is known as the Angel, Animal, and Intuition Oracle. She has taught thousands of professional, corporate, and entrepreneurial women to trust themselves and their divine intuition so they can show up in their full power in business and in life. With a background of over 20 years in high tech, Carolyn knows firsthand the importance of living from a blend of her masculine and feminine energies. If you're ready to embrace your intuitive superpowers, visit CarolynMcGee.com to learn about Carolyn's supportive programs and offerings.
Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Hello, my friends. I'm so glad that you're circling up with me today. So, Kristen, what do you mean by budgeting is self-care?
When you have your finances under control and you're living within your means, it will lower your anxiety level and helps to ward off depression. There's nothing worse than, thinking repeatedly day after day, oh, I am so in debt. I'm never going to get these credit cards paid off, and the interest is ridiculously high. And so I'm just, it's out of control. I'm just going to keep spending. And, 10 years from now, maybe I'll have a really good job and I'll get control of my finances. That's no way to live. It's too stressful. And so budgeting is actually self-care. And by that, I mean, live within your means. If you need a roommate to split the rent with, then do that. Budget, plan your finances. What do you make per 2 weeks? What's your paycheck? What part of that goes to your overhead, your rent, your utilities? You may not be able to go out to dinner 4 nights a week or go have cocktails. You may need to cut back on that for now until you've got a handle on your finances. And it's worth it to give up a few of those luxuries to give yourself that peace of mind that you do have your finances under control.
I'll tell you, getting my financial house in order in my, probably my 30s or 40s, you don't realize it at the time how much the level of stress is associated with your finances.
No, you don't put
it's cumulative and you don't realize it until you get your house in order, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel lighter. Right. And then it's like all those years I wasted. And I was an avoider. Like we all have a financial personality, I believe, a healthy one and an unhealthy one. My unhealthy financial personality back then was an avoider. Well, if I don't look at it, it's not real. As we all know, that doesn't work.
And also, I think people kind of get into that peer pressure thing. Well, my friends are all going out for dinner. I don't want to be left out. When in reality, you really don't have the funds right now, to go out and have cocktails or dinner, but you don't want to be left out of a social event. So that's why if you plan ahead, you know what you can say yes to and what you have to pass on. And also it's really important, and I never did this, in hindsight, I would do things completely differently, is also when you're making that budget for yourself, try to put away a little something every month, even if it's $10, because that does add up. So saving is also a really important part of planning your finances.
It is. And it's such a, I think just brings a level of inner peace too, so to me, it's such an important one. But what I love about your book is there's not many that talk about the 5 types of self-care. I haven't seen this talked about under the umbrella of self-care, and, hearing it all together, the physical, emotional, social, mental, and financial, you realize it has to be part of self-care.
Well, yes, and all of these self-care tools together are designed to reduce your anxiety and ward off depression. I'm an advocate for suicide prevention, and it has to start with self-care. When you have control of all these 5 areas and you have the tools to help navigate you through anything, your self-confidence is up and you are warding off depression that can lead to suicide. And I know most people don't take it that far, but I've lived through the depression and suicide of my husband, and had we both been practicing these self-care practices early on, maybe the outcome would be different. So I do have that long range goal in mind when I wrote this book, and it's all about maintaining really good mental health hygiene.
Oh, so important, my friend. And in our last 5 minutes or so, I really want to talk about practicing mindfulness, because since I started practicing mindfulness, I think it's going to be about 2.5 years, because I struggled with what it meant, right?
Right.
And then I realized, wait a minute, when you're washing dishes and you're looking out at nature and watching the squirrels and you are fully present in that moment, that's mindfulness. And I finally got it, what it felt like inside my body. But what does it mean to you? And what does it look like if we were to have a daily, use it on a daily basis?
Well, throughout my book, I have points where they're check-ins. And I will ask you something like, how are you feeling right now in the present moment? Are you tired? Are you stressed? Okay. So the mindfulness is all about, if you answer that question, I'm really tired, then take action to meet your needs in that moment. Don't just say, I'm tired, and then keep doing what you're doing. So what you may do is get up, go outside for 5 minutes, take 3 deep breaths, go for a little walk, and then come back in. And at that point, you've made yourself feel better. So mindfulness is about acknowledging your needs in real time, meaning right now, and then taking action to meet those needs and maybe change how you're feeling. So if you do those check-ins several times throughout the day, and you can do that instinctively, that is going to help keep you grounded and living in the present moment, because now you have learned to check in with yourself and then take action to change how you're feeling. So that's kind of the goal of mindfulness. And I do that periodically through the book to try to make it a habit for the reader.
That's like being fully present in the moment. And what I think one of the conversations that I keep having, again, with the students and also private clients is, but Linda, if when I come out of my head, I lose my momentum of what I'm doing. I'm like, what? I said, mindfulness actually helps you do what you're doing better if you would just take the time to be. And a lot of people, like 2 of the conversations I just had 2 weeks ago, they're like type A, active. They're just always on the go. And they're like, I don't have time for mindfulness. My mind keeps track of everything that I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm like, how's it working for you? You're always stressed out and anxious. And I don't know how to explain it in better words, what the benefits are. I can only share it from my view of how it feels in my body. How would you describe it to someone that is used to being in her mind all the time?
Well, what happens when you're in your own head all the time is you react to the world around you and to people and to circumstances rather than responding. So when you are in a state of mindfulness, you're not just reacting quickly and possibly doing or saying the wrong thing. You can actually pause for 2 or 3 seconds and think about how you want to respond to that, which will probably be a healthier alternative than just that knee-jerk reaction, because you are aware of what's going on in the present moment. So, for example, I use this example in my book. Let's say you're a junior in high school and you oversleep, right? So you get up and you're stressed and you shut off the alarm, and if you are present and mindful, what you will do is calm down, pause for 2 or 3 seconds, and think, okay, what can I do in the present moment to change my situation? Well, if I don't take a shower, I'll just throw my hair up and go. That will save me 10 minutes. But I can eat something so I don't have low blood sugar. So you're taking control of what could be a chaotic morning and setting the tone for your day to be smooth sailing, because you are able to live in the present and respond to the fact that you overslept rather than just react and run around like a crazy person and set a negative tone for your whole day.
So true, so true. And I have one person in particular I'm going to give a call and share this wisdom with and your book with, my friend. So Christy, I just want to say thank you for being here today, for bringing this important topic to light and adding so many layers to it. Especially, I love that you added the financial to self-care. And I want to invite all our listeners to visit Christy at, I want to make sure I say this right, thegriefgirl.com. Learn more about her new book, Be You, Only Better, and everything else she's up to in the world. And Christy, thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And until next Tuesday, everyone, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, my friends.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.